Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 170, the season finale of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And yes, just season finale, as unfortunately for some, we will be back for season 5.
Yes, we're back for season 5 sometime in January. We will release our January dismemberment on time, though, so you will be getting that. And we may have some surprises in there. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a bonus episode or twa. We're not sure.
Yeah.
But basically this is when we like to take our break and recharge. And what's funny is there's so many we have our little best of segment tonight, best of 2020. And the funny thing is I'm going to probably try and have new ones added to that, which is kind of odd. So we may have to have an addendum to our best list because there's a couple that I've been trying to watch. I just haven't had the time. But now that I'm technically off work starting tomorrow until the end of till basically the new year, because I had saved all my days up since we couldn't go anywhere this year. So I'm having like an extended staycation, basically. And hopefully I'll be able to catch up on a lot of the movies I wanted to watch. Like I still want to watch Peninsula, a bunch of stuff on Shudder. We have some screeners now. We got another like 3 or 4 screeners that are new we need to watch. So hopefully we might have some more input. And we'll probably talk about that in our beginning segment when we do our like holiday wrap up anyway. So
yeah, and the Possessor 4K uncut or whatever you want to call it, the uncut version is on Vudu right now for $5, which is
I ordered it. Mine's on its way. The disc is actually on its way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like, I would rather, I was sitting there going, it's $4.99 to rent or $4.99 to buy. I will purchase it, please. So I started watching it today. I couldn't get all the way through it before the podcast, unfortunately. But so far, what I've seen, I really like so far.
Yeah, no, I heard it's amazing. That's why I ordered it. I got a good deal. Like when Cone said it was on Amazon, pretty cheap. I didn't get the 4K version. I got the regular Blu-ray uncut. But
yeah,
either way, we'll
it should be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
we got a pretty packed show tonight. So let's get right to it. This is our first chop. All right, Brian. Well, I didn't have anything to report on as far as watching, other than I did start watching the Eli Roth History of Horror. Believe it or not, I had not seen that when it came out on AMC because we had cut cable by that point. And I know it's been on Shudder for a while, and season 2 just came out, but I just had not watched it. So I started watching those, and man, I'm really loving that. That's really
Isn't that a great show?
Yeah, I'm late to the party on it, but it's a great show.
Yeah, it's essentially like a series of mini docs of horror, featuring a topic, and so it's like you add it all up together, and you got a nice package there full of stuff, and he's got some great guests in there, a lot of great clips. Actually, Julie really likes that show too. We always watch it together when I have save it on the DVR and stuff. So yeah, no, that's a series I hope keeps going. I mean, at some point he's gonna, I guess, run out of subgenres there, but
yeah, but it's a really good show. Now, the next thing up on our list, though, I really wanted to hear about because I have not even talked to you about this yet, Brian, and that is the Kim and KET Stay Alive Maybe live show, which I really wanted to attend, but we had something going on that night, and I just couldn't make it. So how was that?
Yeah. That was great. Their live shows are awesome because, I mean, especially as, we've become such good friends with them. But we see, they every time they do any kind of special or something, it's like their live show plus because of mostly the chats that they do. And when they do their live segments, they have the coolest thing. So I think it's Eric running the whole board. And so when you do things in the chat, they'll make it so it pops up on the screen so everyone could see like a highlight thing, and so can Kim and Ket. So
that's cool.
They'll comment on some of the funnier comments on there. And so I made sure I put a couple up there that they were cracking up. I gave them another idea for a new podcast or technically show called oh my god, what was it though? Oh my god! Well, they were talking about the hearth, so I said, "Oh, Be Still My Hearth," and it's a show where Ketrin goes in and explores different horror homes that have hearths. So they like that idea. But yeah, so what they did is because I get with this live show is a little different when they did their drunk horror thing. Is they each had a segment. They did one from the show Monsters and one of Tales from the Dark Side episode, and they did their standard show just for a smaller episode. They can get they each had one in there. And it was fun as always. I mean, I know those who participated. I mean, this one it was $12 of a ticket, but it was money well spent. And of course, I want to support our friends. And they did an absolutely like just amazing job. It was hysterical. I was cracking up. But what's really cool about their live shows is that you get to see them visually in their reaction, and they were all dressed all festively, and you see their their reactions to things. So it's because they're so funny just audibly, but like when you get to see their reactions and see them crack up and all that stuff, it just adds to it. So that was just a really, really great time. And I recommend anyone who are big fans of theirs, definitely check out whenever they do a live show next.
Yeah, I definitely plan on seeing their next live show. I think I've missed the last two that they've done, and I've just been kicking myself that I haven't been able to get to one, but I will definitely try to make a point to watch their next one.
Yeah, because especially when we're both in there, it's probably even extra fun.
Oh, yeah. Next up, we both did get to participate in this one. That's the Joe Bob Saves Christmas special, and that's, of course, where they were doing an auction for charity, which was really cool because they had some just crazy items that they were shilling between segments of the movie. But I was surprised, Brian. I had never seen... I guess it's got like 10 different names, but I think it's called Deadly Games. Yeah. It's also called
Dial Santa or something, right?
Dial Santa, something like that. Yeah, but that was a insane movie. Was it like a French film?
Yeah, it was French. It was like a French Home Alone.
Yeah, it was like a French Home Alone. Exactly, that's a good description. And the little mullet kid.
That's like he was Solid Snake cosplay from like Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, he was amazing. I actually liked the movie.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I know Joe Bob gave it 3 stars. I mean, you could tell it wasn't like a favorite of his, but it was. I don't know. There was something about it. I really liked it. It just had a weird vibe to it. I guess because it was it was a foreign film and it just kind of had a different take on it. On the whole thing, so I really like the vibe of it.
Yeah, I mean, cool. I love to. Some of his people were joking and like the tweet along. They're like, what kind of personnel thing just hires someone randomly off the street to deal with kids when he dresses up as Santa? It's like,
yeah,
it's a lot of little funny like what the hell moments, and like the fact that it's like all on this weird like what was it they called the internet like there it was like the.
I can't remember.
Like
it was something
Minette
weird, yeah.
or something. It had some weird name. It was like the French internet, basically. That was like public internet or something. But it was kind of funny. So it was definitely good. But I thought the favorite unique thing about this Joe Bob special is that he seemed to hijack the set was like a hijacked Pioneer Woman set or something. It was like this really fancy kitchen, and. Not that I would ever think Joe Bob can't do anything, because I think that guy could do anything he sets his mind to. It seemed weird for him to be in such an elaborate kitchen with like where you would like really just host a cooking show. And Darcy did make cookies later on, but it was still funny just to see Joe Bob on that set and not in his trailer. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, I know. And Darcy did an awesome job. She was kind of she was tweeting before how nervous she was.
Oh my god!
I thought she was phenomenal.
She always does that. And remember, she said that in person when we first met her that time. It was like it was the eve of the first last drive-in season, and when we met them at the HorrorCon. Remember, and she was saying how nervous she was, and she just overall she's very humble and very but when she kicks in that Darcy persona, on the show, it's like you would never know that she's that she actually apparently does get nervous for things like that because she does such a good job.
Yeah. So, Brian, we had a couple of non-horror things before we get to wrap up with a couple of horror-related items, and this one I really want to hear about, and you got a chance to read Ready Player 2.
Yeah, I finished it like probably in about 4 days once I started, and it was, a lot of people have, there have been some complaints on it beyond that one we talked about, how people just think it's like a Mad Lib of references. But a lot of people, some people didn't like the way the book went. I was completely satisfied and I loved it. I still think the first one was a better book just because it was it was so new and it was. But there's a couple of segments in this that are like the biggest Tim segments in like the entire series. So I can't wait till you read that, Tim, because and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you get to that part. Actually, there might be even 2 Tim segments, like back to back, kind of. But nice. So it's just really, really, absolutely loved it. I love the characters, the world that Ernest Cline created, and he doubled down and made another like great sequel. So yeah, I mean, it might be like I'm wondering if the series can continue in some way. That's all I'll say, just because it, the book ends in a way that could lead to a sequel, could not, depending on how he wants to do it. Maybe spin-offs. I'm not sure which way he's going to go, but I would anything he churns out, I would read. But yeah, and another one I started, I'm almost done with. It was one we did with my mom and my brother and stuff. We did our holiday exchange early because my mom was heading to Florida for the winter. So we did. One of the things I got was a book. I'll go through all the details, when we do our holiday wrap up next year. But what I got was it was called Tragic Kingdom, an unauthorized walking tour through the haunted and fatal history of Disney parks. And
nice.
Yeah, and it's cool because I mean, I knew that it was about the deaths at Disney, and I just love anything theme park books. I'll read any theme park book you put in front of me. And this one always was interesting, so it's always been on my wish list. But I don't think I realized how it goes into so many different supposedly paranormal experiences at the parks, and that part was really cool. So there's some really cool and creepy ghost stories that apparently cast members will discuss. And he goes through all the things. He goes through the deaths, but he also goes through different paranormal spots, and he does it in like a walking tour. As if you started at one spot in the property and goes to the other. And he starts at Disneyland and California Adventure, then he goes to Disney World, and he goes to different parks. So it's really just a cool book because I love hearing any kind of paranormal tales. So that part of the book, I mean, the deaths are tragic. That's not really something you like to hear, but the paranormal stuff is just so cool, and some of them are just downright like creepy when you hear some of them, and it's like, so that's definitely a recommend if you're into theme parks and paranormal stories.
Oh yeah, that sounds really cool. Next up, In Search of Darkness 2. I have not had a chance to watch this yet, Brian, but I believe you made it through all 4 hours.
Oh yeah, 4.5. Well, and I made sure I sat through the credits to see our Civil Gore credit in there.
Oh yeah, nice.
But yeah, I mean, once again, another 4.5 hours of pure, like, just like recollection of the best in 80s horror. I think it's pretty much the same format as the original. I think there's a little more like feature on some specific people. There's a great segment on Linnea Quigley. She's featured a lot. They go through a big segment of her. There's a big thing on Robert Englund. There's just a lot, and it's just great. It's a lot of things that you might have said, oh, how come they didn't include that when they went through the 85 or something? Well, yeah, David comes through with a ton of more movies and little mini segments of little like featured things. So I mean, you know what, if it was my wish, I would just have David keep churning 4.5 hours out of through the 80s until he runs out of movies, literally. But because it's just nice. Another amazing job, and if you loved the first one, you're gonna love this one just as much. Now I can't wait. When I told him, he's like, yeah, but now we're gonna finish that In Search of Tomorrow, which don't forget is gonna come out soon, which is just which is on this 80s sci-fi. So I mean, yeah, we've actually become good friends with David, and he's so captures what's in our hearts. It really, especially other fans of like all that stuff. So it's great. Like we always love talking to him. We'll have to have him on again in 2021 when the sci-fi doc is released. So even just to hang out and chat with him, because it's always a good time.
All right, so the last thing on our rundown was one that just dropped today, I believe, and that was the trailer for the new Wrong Turn, which I guess you'd call it a reboot. I don't know what they are terming this one. I mean, it sounds like it's a sequel because the way they marketed it, it was like in 2003.
Yeah.
We told you not to go in the woods, and we haven't learned. So it sounds like it's not like a remake. It's just continuing, but they're kind of rebooting it. It's called just Wrong Turn.
Yeah. Well, it had a tagline, The Foundation, at one point, but I think they dropped that. I think they dropped the subtitle, but
yeah. But yeah, well, I don't know what you thought about the trailer, Brian. I thought it was a fantastic trailer. It's really dark. The Wrong Turn series has always had a little bit of humor to it. This one, it looks like they really took a darker turn with it. It looks a lot more sinister, at least from the trailer. And I thought it looked fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely loved the trailer, because if it goes where it's going to go, it looks like it's going back. It's not doing the silly, crazy comedy. It's not it does tease like a backstory, but I think the backstory that you want, and not so much like okay, now they run a hotel. It's like this one looks like it's going back to the serious, like hardcore stuff that you loved in the first one. It looks really light on comedy, So I don't know if this is a direct sequel to the first one, and they're just going to like scrap all that the other ones. I know, yeah, you can't tell which way they're going for that, other than it's definitely a link to the first one, unless they're just kind of linking it as on a marketing standpoint, But yeah, no, it's got Charlotte Vega's in there. Matthew Modine is in there, which is got some star power there. He looks like he's like a interesting character there. So yeah, no, I cannot wait for this one, because this is one of my most anticipated movies, I think, for 2021.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, obviously, as a fan of the Wrong Turn series, and because we did it on our summer slaycation this summer, but I mean, after seeing that trailer, like, my hype level went through the roof. I thought it just looked incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, I know the early things I heard about it was that it was going back to more the serious one. Maybe try and really get the frightening aspect that the first one had. Yeah. So it looks like that's what we're getting, and I could not be more excited right now.
All right, so it's time for our best of the year rundown, and as you guys know, me and Brian don't really do these in any kind of official, we don't do like an official top 10 list per se. I think we've always been more or less kind of just casual about it, and this year was kind of weird because despite the pandemic and us both probably having more time than we usually did to watch movies, I really didn't get to see a lot of the critical top rated horror films of 2020. I went back before the show and started looking at like what's the top 20 films of 2020 horror films. From the critic standpoint, there was a lot that I missed. Possessor was on there, and there's just a lot of them that came out that I just, for whatever reason, I just missed them. And so I can't really, it's hard for me to make a top 10 list because people would be like, well, why didn't you have this? And why didn't you have this? And why didn't you have this? Because there's so many I didn't see.
Yeah, and I know the list that we have, we're missing. People are going to be like, well, why didn't you mention this? We just didn't see it. Like, I know like that movie, The Rental, I'm dying to see.
Relic.
Yeah, Relic, Antebellum. There's some movies there that I really just have not got a chance to watch yet. But a handful of stuff on Shudder, too. So, yeah, so this is basically just a list of our favorites, and I know a lot of them you're going to be like, well, that's because you reviewed it, but I mean, like I said, we tend to pick movies that we want to see, so there's a reason.
Yeah.
So, and usually, so there's a good chance that the movies we pick that we will like, so.
And this is also kind of a recap of our show as well, so when you're going to hear a lot of these titles and go, oh, that's because they had so-and-so on the show. And it's kind of a way to just recap our year.
Yeah.
So it's not just necessarily a year of what we say is the best. It's also kind of a recap of what we talked about this year and what we watched and that kind of thing.
And it's also movies that we just enjoyed. It doesn't have to be the best of the year. It's just ones we enjoyed.
All right. So to kick things off, of course, we had a pair of movies with a similar name, and that was Host and Hosts with an S, which is a little confusing, but they were both phenomenal movies. They were both phenomenal creators behind those movies that we were fortunate enough to have on the show. And Brian, I just absolutely loved both of these movies.
Oh, yeah. And And actually now I'm gonna have to do rewatch Hosts actually because of it's definitely a holiday. It takes place during the holiday season, so that'll be one of my the next couple of weeks as I watch through holiday horror. Like I tend to around this time of year. I'm very excited to rewatch Hosts, and I actually want to show it to Julie. She didn't get to see it, so I've been teasing her. I'm saying, don't worry, I have it on DVD. We'll watch it around the holidays. So
yeah, and Host with no S
Yes.
obviously was just a phenomenon this year. If you ask anybody what probably the top horror movie of 2020, that one would be a good contender, just because it went so mainstream and it kind of went a little viral.
yeah,
So I would definitely say that one was definitely gunning for the top spot. But if you had not seen Host with an S, I strongly recommend you track it down, because it is also fantastic with some just really shocking imagery that I have not seen in a long time. So I absolutely recommend that one. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so and now's a great time. You can pick it. It's out on DVD. It's out on demand. So yeah, so definitely grab that. I think the next one is definitely one, of course, we absolutely loved, and it all spawned from our intrigue from it on the dismemberment, which it's funny that has led to some of our movies that we ended up loving because of that, and that is 1BR, which of course we actually discussed in the dismemberment. We saw the trailer, and then actually Alok from one of the producers got in touch with us, and then we had one of my favorite shows we've ever done when we had Alok, we had Taylor Nichols, we had David Marmer, and of course Naomi Grossman. We had like a little happy hour Zoom, and that was just a ball. And then of course we did one later with the Host guys. They're both the same production company, so it's like that production company and us just mix, I'll tell you. But
they make some great stuff.
Yeah, and that was so much fun because we basically we tied the beer pairing into it, and we just had a great time. And that's definitely, if you have not seen 1BR, that's one you need to watch for sure. And because that one's just amazing.
And that's another one that kind of went a little bit viral. Like I saw it just popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
After it was released, and it was on a lot of top 10 lists at the end of the year. I would definitely put it on my top 10 and towards the top of that top 10 list for this year. So that was another one, man. I was so happy to see the success, because I know there's some really great people behind it, and that's always great to see them rewarded.
Yeah, and that's one I've watched multiple times. So it's like and each time I feel like it gets better. I just love it, and it's in the monolith. It's got a proud spot for it. I still have to watch some of the special features. Still haven't got to watch all of them, but yeah. That is just a great one. With one of the strongest, I think, just overall performances by a lead this year. And there's been a lot of them, but I definitely think Nicole Bryden Bloom was like one of the, if there's like a 2020 Oscars or something for horror, she has got to be considered up there for her performance in that, because that was just a really, really good job she did in that movie.
Yeah, the next one up we had was another one where we had a fantastic interview, and that was for the movie Alone, which I thought was just for a basically 2-character drama, or a thriller drama, whatever you want to call it. I just thought it was incredible. It's a story of a serial killer who's kidnapped this woman and her fight for survival, and it's just gripping throughout. I thought their performances were amazing in this one. And if you haven't caught this one, again, it's one of those titles that's easy to get lost in the fray.
Well, because there's also another Alone this year. I think a Donald Sutherland vehicle that's called Alone, too. So good luck. I mean, this year trying to find movies that you talk about, because if you don't hear an S or you don't look at the right movie, who knows what you'll end up watching.
Yeah, but try to track that one down. This is the one we saw as part of the Fantasia Film Festival.
Yeah.
And, not really thinking much about it. Oh, another serial killer movie. And wound up absolutely loving it. Wound up getting interviews. I mean, with the leads, it was incredible.
Yeah, and that goes to show you that you could take a premise that's probably been done 100 times, but if you do it in your own way and you do it right and you have strong leads, that you almost don't realize it, because I think Mark Menchaca and Jules Wilcox were so great and so strong in those roles that it elevated the movie so far above what it could have been if you had a lesser cast. And so that, I think, it just shows, how great it was. And that was a really fun segment to talk about, because I'm glad we got to talk to the director and the leads on that, because that just, it really is just, it was like, like I said, it was like like you said too, it was just one of those things where, I don't know if we would have possibly discovered that if we didn't view it through the Fantasia thing and got to see, got those, just caught it, because that was like one of those that was standing out in the featured list there, and I'm glad we got to see it.
And then the next one up on our list is another one that I don't know that I would have caught, initially, but we ended up getting a screener for this one and got an interview with this one, and that was The Cleansing Hour. And this one, man, I've heard a lot of friends that are not even friends of the podcast, like friends of mine personally, that ended up watching this, really loved it.
Yeah, this was so good. And this was another one where when we first got it and we were starting to watch, I'm like, oh, it's another exorcism movie, whoopee. But then this one just all of a sudden just picks up and takes off and goes in a direction I don't think you'd expect, and it is just blows you away. And this is another one where the leads are so impressive, and Alex Angelis was just so good as the main character in this. And it's just like I tell you, it was like with 2020 in horror, I mean, granted you had such a horrible 2020 just in the real world, but to get all this horror on top of it is at least, when you're inside, at least we got some good stuff to watch.
Yeah. The next one kind of falls in that same category of a movie that just came out of nowhere to surprise me, and that was The Beach House. And this is another one where, it's a character study. I mean, it's a few characters in a house, low budget from not from the look of the movie, but from, low budget in terms of one location type sets. And I was blown away by this one. It was completely unexpected, and it shows how you can make a really, really gripping movie with just a handful of characters. Yeah,
and again, another one of those things where a lead just takes on Leanna Liberato, and that was just so good, and such a unique female character. She wasn't one that needed. She was the heroine. She was the final girl from the minute this thing started. You knew she was going to be tough, and that's what was it was such a refreshing thing to see. And she literally took that role and just gave it something extra. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on her career, because I'll pretty much watch anything she does now. She was so good.
The next one up, going towards a more kind of fun side of horror, that was Scare Package, which was an anthology that really just blew me away. That was just a ton of fun, and kind of goes along. I'll mention another one that's on our list because it's kind of along the same vein, and that was the Mortuary Collection.
Yes, it's another great
one. So
one.
These two, Scare Package and Mortuary Collection, are just two great anthologies that came out this year that you should definitely track down, because they have that great sense of humor to them.
And great wraparound, that extends throughout the whole thing. It's not just a beginning and end. It's it weaves throughout the movie.
Yeah, both of these had really good wraparounds, come to think of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those were great. Of course, we can't have a list of our favorites of 2020 without mentioning Fear Farm with our good friend Emily Sweet, because this might have been one of my favorite interviews we've ever done.
Oh, yeah.
It was a blast talking to the producers behind that movie, and it's just a fun throwback slasher type movie, but with the thing I always love, which is a slasher family.
Yeah,
I always love that. It's ever since Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I've loved that. And then you combine the haunt aspect of it with all kind of the corn maze thing. It was a lot of fun.
And that we know is going to be a franchise, because they kind of teased that, and it was that one just was the perfect mix of what you love in a good slasher thing. It added some great comedy to it. It had some good gore and kills to it. I've watched that a ton of times, and I absolutely just love that. It's definitely, there was no way that could not be on this list. And actually, we skipped one there, but we can go back to it unless you want to go next to while we're on the Emily Sweet vehicles here,
Yeah.
which was, of course,
Yeah, we'll go back to it.
yeah.
We have to talk about the other Emily Sweet vehicle from this year, which was, of course, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah,
Brian.
and that's Castle Freak 2020, one that Tim and I were extremely excited for and were, so anticipating this, and it did not disappoint. In fact, it was the opposite. It was even better, and I liked it more than I expected to even. And yeah, that was just, and that's a newer one, obviously, just came out a couple weeks ago, but I've watched it like 3 times already, and that like basically definitely doubled and tripled down on the Lovecraft element, which I know was a big selling point for Tim that really pushed it. And just, of course, I love the cast. I love the just the behind the scenes of it. It's of knowing that it was like the Barbara Crampton who was starting the original was part of the producing of it. So it just what a great movie. It was like such a great reimagining, and it one that could completely exist and not compete with the original. It doesn't need to be. It's different enough. But it also had a great homage to the original, and I mean, cool credits that mimicked it. I mean, it was just really so great. I was so excited for that one, and so happy it delivered.
The next one up is Scare Me, and that's the one we had kind of skipped over, not intentionally though, because this one was probably the most unique horror movie on this list.
Yeah,
because it's really a horror movie where the stories are told and acted out versus actually shown on screen.
Yeah.
Which is I've never seen it before. It was such a bold concept, and this movie could not have worked without the performances of the 2 leads.
Right.
There's just no way.
This is
have to have.
Yeah, very lead heavy summer for movies.
Like, you have to have phenomenal performances from those 2 leads. And I saw mixed reviews on this one because some people just could not wrap their heads around this movie and what it was trying to do. And I just think they pulled off something really unique, really special. And I'm always going to love anytime a movie takes that kind of risk and then also manages to pull it off. So, whatever, even though it's definitely not your typical horror movie, I have to respect it for what they pulled off. It was really, really entertaining.
Right. The next one we'll go to, and this is one of the mainstream ones, and this is one of way back in the beginning, and this is right around when the pandemic really started to hit home with everybody. And I remember because this was the first theater at home movie that I took part in, and and I rented, and that was The Hunt, which I've watched multiple times since, and oh my god, did I love this one. This was everything I wanted it to be. Great gore, great performances. Oh my god, yeah, this one was definitely one of my favorite. Even Julie loved this one and watched it multiple times with me, so this one was definitely one of my, it had to be on this list, I think.
Yeah, and so silly that it was like held up because of all the controversy about the political.
Oh god,
and
it was such a small thing of it, really.
Yeah, and it skewers both sides. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's no more political than Saturday Night Live making fun of both sides.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
It's actually probably less partisan than Saturday Night Live, to be honest.
It kind of teased both sides of it. So.
Yeah, so if that's turning you off from watching this movie, definitely don't let that hold you back.
Yeah, you need to watch it for Betty Gilpin's performance alone. Yes, I mean, she's so good. I absolutely think she's one of the best out there. Oh my god, I love her and everything she's been doing. It's kind of sad that there's no more Glow, but yeah, so she was just she's fantastic. That if that's not the selling point to see her in it, I don't know what is. You got to watch that.
The next one up is, if we talked about The Hunt being the first kind of movie on demand we took part in for the pandemic, Invisible Man was the last movie I saw in the theater before the theater shut down. In fact, we saw this one like a week before we went into lockdown. So we just kind of barely scooted in under the wire. And this one, man, I absolutely love this one. If you had told me an Invisible Man movie would have been like one of the best horror movies of 2020, I would have been really skeptical because, most of the Universal reboots have not been great. But they just went in such a crazy, cool direction with this one. But they kept the spirit of the original, because if you look back at the original Invisible Man, he was a complete jackass.
And he is in Horrified, too, the board game.
He is, yeah, exactly. So they kept that spirit of the Invisible Man, even though even though they've updated it to modern times. And of course, Emily Moss is fantastic. I love her and everything. She plays such a good, like, woman under distress.
Yeah, but again, it's like, I mean, I know I'm beating this to death, and people are going to say, all right, we get it. But then again, Elizabeth Moss comes out and kills her role as the leading person and elevates that movie. It's like the amazing leads this year on movies. It's like, I don't know. It's like, and remember, it's like when a lot of this stuff was filmed, the pandemic wasn't going on. So it's not like people knew, like, we better elevate this because this is going to be in movies. Yeah. Everyone, no, this was just I guess kismet in some way that we got all these amazing movies when we needed them the most. But yeah, again, she was just unbelievable in this, and I mean, she's good in everything, but like this, she totally like just sold it. I mean, so well, so great.
And I'm glad the final theater experience I had was a good one, because there weren't many people in there, so it was just like, it's one of those great theater experiences where you don't have anybody annoying you. There's nobody sitting right next to you. You just have the big screen, the popcorn, the whole 9 yards. So I ended on a high note, it was a good movie on top of it.
Nice. So. Obviously, light is at the end of this tunnel finally, with the vaccines coming, and hopefully by this time next year, this will be just a long forgotten lesson that we have all learned. Yeah. But let's move on back to more exciting things here. Is the next batch of movies here. We'll start with it's funny that this is the movie next on the list. A movie that like really like just circles back to itself, which is, this is a year we do not want to circle back for many reasons. And that is Welcome to the Circle, which was one of the more unique movies of the year. Very like Twin Peaks-esque, I felt. Very Lost-esque, and another some great performances again with this, and it was just really bizarre, but like for some reason I just ate it up. And I know Tim is a big cult fan, so that whole cult aspect drew him in immediately.
Yeah, I'm watching that Heaven's Gate cult now documentary on HBO Max. So.
You and Kim Burns, like Cody said, we got to watch out for you two, because right. You two, we can't have two prominent podcast hosts be lost into a cult going into 2021. So
next up, another one we had a really fun interview for, and that was Behind You, which was that kind of a supernatural ghostly movie. Another one that's kind of a tight character driven movie, one location, but that was kind of a perfect theme for this quarantine, being locked down, to see other people, kind of these closed set movies where you're not seeing all these locations and stuff. It was kind of fitting, the theme was kind of fitting. So we really liked that one, and really enjoyed that interview.
Next one was another one of the ones we got Shudder sent us a screener, and that was Spiral, which not the Spiral the Saw one, which I originally thought that was what they were talking about. This is a different one, another just great one that really touched on some serious topics in there, mixed into a horror movie. Almost in the, I'd say like kind of similar to the style that like Jordan Peele uses a lot, takes a lot of big social issues, but puts it into a really great horror film. And I thought this one was another one that was and this one doesn't get as much talk as it should, as far as I'm concerned. I know everyone that's seen it likes it, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not getting enough play here because on how good it was.
Yeah, and that one goes into the LGBTQ community, and that one that's not an area I've seen a lot of in horror.
Right.
Now, maybe that's because I've been watching the wrong movies, but that's the first time I had really that I can remember in a while having seen that brought up so prominently in horror. So that was really, really cool to see.
Yeah, and that one just goes into such a weird place towards the end that just is but makes a movie just so overall such a great package and just a really good horror movie. And that's still, I believe, on Shudder. So if you haven't seen it yet, I don't know why it hasn't got as more press than it should, but than it needs to. I meant but yeah. So definitely check that one out.
And Kim and Ket did a great episode on that.
Yes, they did. They did it. Yeah, they did a phenomenal. So yeah, go back, watch the movie, then go listen to their episode if you haven't yet, because that's another one they did great.
The next one I'll have to let you take, Brian, because I have not.
You got to see this. This has got to be one of the ones you put on during your break to watch. And that's I'm not going to go too much into it because I discussed it in the last episode, but that's Anything for Jackson. I remember we got the screener, but I didn't get a chance to watch the screener version. Then boom, it came out on Shudder. But this one was definitely one of my favorites so far of the year, and it came really late in the year. Our good buddy Jeff Whitmire, he was the one that he is like, "Did you see this yet?" And I'm like, "No, I'm actually, that was the next movie I was planning to watch." He's like, "Oh, you're gonna love it," and I did. He was dead on. So that's one, Tim, you must watch. I think everyone needs to watch it, but I think you will absolutely love it, and you'll see why it's on this list right away when you start to watch it.
Nice. Next one up is one that a movie 11 years in the making. We found out from the interview we did, and that was The Dead Ones.
Yeah.
And another reason for this list is I to just give a shout out to all the people that were gracious enough to come on the show and give their time and talk about the creative aspect behind their movies, because this was a banner year for the podcast in terms of being able to talk to people who create movies. And I just thought that was phenomenal. I'm so appreciative of the people that came on the show to promote their movies. And this is another one of those fantastic interviews that I really, really enjoyed. The Dead Ones, which also went to some areas that most horror films are very afraid to touch.
Yeah.
And that's, the school shootings and stuff like that. That's kind of a taboo subject, even for horror movies. And for them to approach it this way, but still pull it off, without seeming exploitive or anything, I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah, and out of all the interviews we had, this one with Jeremy Kasdan was really interesting because of just the tale of the movie. Like Tim said, 11 years in the making, the tale of what it took to get this movie to finally come out was just so enlightening and interesting that made for definitely one of our more unique interviews in that aspect. And that was and then the movie. So the movie was totally blew me away when I watched it, and so I was so glad we got to discuss it with him afterwards. So that was really cool.
Now the next one up, you might see as a 2019 movie, because it's just one of those gray areas. Sometimes they come out, hit the film festivals of the latter half of last year and come out mainstream the early half of this year. So, but I've seen it on a lot of top 2020 lists, and that's Color Out of Space, which I thought was incredible. I was already hyped for it as a Lovecraft fan.
And Nick Cage fan.
And Nick Cage
and
fan,
Alpaca
obviously.
fans, really. Everyone wins in this one.
So I was going in like really hyped, but I was trying to keep my expectations low. But this one exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
It was a very, very well done Lovecraft adaptation, and Nicolas Cage is, of course, he's freaking awesome in everything.
Yeah,
what can you say?
Yeah, and this one, just the fact when he gets total Nick Cage in spots, and only Nick Cage could act that well with a I don't know, what is it, what's the term for a group of alpacas? But
I don't know, a pack of alpacas,
an alpaca of alpacas. But just his descent into madness in this is just pure Cage.
And any script where, and it was the same with Mandy.
Yeah.
It's the same with a lot of his movies. Like they intentionally write it so that he has to descend into madness.
Yeah.
And those roles are so perfect for him.
Oh my God. Yeah. So this is definitely one of the ones you got to see if you have not seen it. It's on Shudder too, so you have no excuse. This one was good. This was really good. And you even get a Tommy Chong small role in there too, which is cool.
So let's hit some of the documentaries that we saw this year.
Yeah,
man, such great horror documentaries. There's one on here I even got I'm gonna have to sneak in here at the last minute, but we'll talk about some of these others first. Brian, I'll let you take this first one because I have not had a chance to see this one yet.
Yeah, and that's I'm gonna say it the way it's grammatically, but it's Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course that is the Mark Patton documentary. This was just very moving and very inspiring, his tale on, what it was like growing up, as he got into Hollywood and basically trying to be, as a gay man and, it seemed like they were trying to hide that fact, but then put him in, a quote unquote, what's now known as a gay horror movie, which was, of course, Freddy's Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And it just shows how hard it was and how he felt, and he's so open and honest. And we got to meet him briefly at New Jersey Horror Con. I wish I had seen the documentary first before before we got to meet him quickly, because I would have had so much more to say and discuss with him, just because it's, you almost want to go up to him and just say, wow, because it really is, you didn't realize what he was going through. And it's brought out so open and honestly that you just feel for him what he went through. But it ends on, that he's, he uses it a very empowering moment to become who he is. And so, yeah, that's definitely one of the more unique documentaries you'll see in the world of horror. And that was another one that Shudder was so graciously nice to send us a screener of. But now I think it's on Shudder still. You can see it. It's definitely one I highly recommend. And you don't even have to be a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. Just fan of being human, being a fan of humanity. Yeah. This is a great movie to watch. Great documentary.
So the next one made the list, but I think we talked about it earlier in the first shop, and that was In Search of Darkness 2. So if you guys have not, definitely try to get a hold of that one, because if you loved the first one as much as I did, I'm sure you're going to love the follow-up. Another one on here that was really a pleasant surprise, Brian, that was Hail to the Deadites, which was an Evil Dead fan movie about, hardcore Evil Dead fans. And it truly was a fan-centric documentary. And those are always a lot of fun. I've seen ones on Star Trek and all other kinds of, fandom. But the thing I really liked about this one is seeing all the convention footage.
Oh my God. Didn't that bring you it brought almost depression and excitement at the same time.
Yeah, I think it was the perfect time to watch this one, because you got to see people at conventions and go, oh man, I remember when that was a thing. But it also kind of gave you hope that, you might get back there one day.
Yeah, so. I mean, as of now, New Jersey Horror Con is still slated for the end of March. So, I mean, I personally think it might be a little too soon. I'm still holding out optimism for it, but I have a feeling, I don't know if it gets pushed back or whatnot. I'm hoping it's somehow things get to a point where that's work, because that's the same group that's been there literally from last year. They got everybody back that was slated to be there. There's a lot of great guests. We made so many good friends from there. I mean, I really hope that this thing happens again.
Yeah, and I think if nothing else, I think the fall conventions will definitely be back on. The last two here I had on the list were, of course, the Leap of Faith Exorcist documentary, which was essentially, and we talked about it on a few episodes back, but essentially William Friedkin just talking about his experience with The Exorcist. And I was just completely enraptured. I mean, this is just one guy talking, but it's a master director talking about his craft. And it was just so enlightening and entertaining and touching in a way, which is weird, because I really wasn't a huge William Friedkin fan before going into this documentary. I thought, from what I had heard, he was kind of a jerk director in terms of what he did to some of his actors, but he really comes off well in this documentary, and I really, really liked it. I highly recommend that one, whether you're a Friedkin fan or not. Highly recommend that one. That one's on Shudder. And then another one on Shudder I highly recommend is that Blood and Flesh, The Real Life and Ghastly Death of Al Adamson.
Oh, that's right. I got to see both these.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, Al Adamson is not a filmmaker that I knew anything about. He made really, really low budget, quickly produced, filmed in a week type movies out in the California desert, wherever he could get a camera set up. And he was just kind of like a Roger Corman type. And he ended up with a really tragic death. But what's great about the documentary is, even though they do go into, how his life ended, they spend a lot of time talking about his filmmaking process and people that worked with him. And that's the part of the documentary that's actually the most riveting. It's not the true crime aspect. It's actually everything about how he filmed movies and stuff. So that, again, is also on Shudder, Blood and Flesh. Definitely check that one out. Whether you're know about his films or not, I knew nothing about his films. I've never seen any of his films, and I still thought this documentary was fantastic. So
yes,
that pretty much wraps up our 2020. Again, it's not meant to be these are the best movies of 2020. This was kind of meant as kind of a recap of the entire year, stuff we had seen, people we'd had on, films that kind of just made an impact on us one way or the other throughout the year. And I think any of these would be worth your time.
Yes, and I apologize if we might have missed one in there to someone that's like, wait a minute. Because, this is a hard list to kind of come up with. It's been a long year in many ways.
Yeah.
So, listen, with 2020, I think a lot needs to be forgiven at moments, So let's just try and remember the good, what was good in it. I will say, actually, it's funny. I was talking to Julie about this, and I was going to say, what's so interesting thing is, like, you and I mean, basically through the podcast specifically, have met so many new people that we, like, truly can call friends. And it's like, it'll be so interesting when we kind of get to meet these people in person. And if you think about it, probably a lot of people are in the same wavelength, because how many times have you probably gone to the internet and got more involved in social media groups of fandoms, because, you can't go out to the, you're not meeting people in a normal way, it's like, so it's like, so I wonder how many, like, people have that same experience where they're literally going to go out there and be like, meet someone for the first time in person, but feel like they've known them for so long. And I know we have so many people now that we've met through this podcast in various ways that it's going to be like that. Yeah.
It's really cool. It's in some ways it's almost made me more social, because I'm actually more comfortable. I'm very much an introvert. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm very much an introvert in real life. Until I get to know you, obviously,
Yeah, and then Tim doesn't leave me alone, and I have to talk to him all the time.
I text him constantly. But I'm very much introverted in real life, so it's much easier for me to communicate and make friends with people online. Writing on forums and sending emails, I'm great communicating in that respect. If meeting in person, as Shannon Elizabeth could tell you, I'm much more shy and awkward. So the pandemic was actually good for me socially, because I had to do all of my communication and stuff online, and that's like my comfort zone. So I've actually made probably more friends this year through the socials than I have in last year in real life.
But I think it's inspired Tim, so watch out, world, in 2021 when Tim comes for you and starts talking to you in person now,
That's right. I'm getting bolder now.
Yeah.
Shannon Elizabeth, I'm ready for it.
I know. Tim is literally going to go up and just say, "What's up?" And and then once security gets the briefing on what happened, everything's cool. We'll move on to the next table. But no.
All right, so let's get to our featured movie this year. I'm sorry, this
year.
Week.
Feels like this year. This is a long movie.
Feels like this year. It does feel like a year-long movie. This is DEATHCEMBER. This one just recently released on VOD, and I was really interested in it because it is a Christmas horror anthology, but not just any anthology. It's a collection of, they advertise 24 segments. It really has 26 if you count the 2 after the end credits. And this is it's an epic anthology. The closest thing I can describe it to is if you've seen the ABCs of Death.
Yeah.
And those are films where they basically brought a bunch of directors in to kind of compile their shorts into one feature length. This one is even more epic. It's 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And it was neat because it was a holiday themed anthology, and no wraparound. It's just a kind of a
the wraparound is essentially like this digital computer generated advent calendars.
It's not really a story, but I was interested in seeing this one just because it was so ambitious. So let's find out what we thought about it. This one came out last year, although, like I said, it just recently, I believe, came out for VOD.
Yeah, I don't think you could have seen it before, and this year they're promoting it heavily. So I think it was, it's officially, like, it'll go down, and, like, I think IMDb is 2019, but I think it may get credited for here, because if you look on the official DEATHCEMBER site, every day this year, they've been, like, timing it. So, like, today you can open the 16th door, and it shows features about the 16th movie in the 16th segment. So and it's like, so each day you're getting like a taste if you've been following along. So
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, too many directors to count
Yeah.
because this, like we said, it's 24 segments and too many stars to count. But we do have two big names. Barbara Crampton and Tiffany Shepis
Yes.
are featured in a couple of the shorts. So I'll read you the official synopsis. A collection of 24 films that take a look at the dark side of the festive season. 24 international directors with the most diverse ideas and styles, linked by short animated segments that deal with the Advent calendar itself.
Now technically it's 26 segments because there are 2 bonus ones in the during the credits. And it was so funny. While I was writing notes, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden this bonus segment comes on. I'm like, oh, okay, so there's a bonus segment. And then I was done. I put my thing away, and thank God I left the credits on because another bonus segment came a few minutes later. I texted Tim. I said, Tim, by the way, this movie doesn't want to end. They just keep adding segments to it. But yeah, no. So it's technically 26 segments.
I will have to read you one funny comment from Voodoo. So one person had left a review, and it said, "Wake me up when DEATHCEMBER ends."
Oh, but you know what? It was like, yes, it was long, but it was like an enjoyable 2.5 hours.
I will have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. I came into this one dreading watching it. I'll be quite honest, because I was thinking, oh my God, 26 stories. This is going to be like horrible.
Yeah.
And I told Brian this before the show. I made notes on each story because I wanted to see how many of these did I really like, how many did I really hate, and how many was I kind of neutral on. And I'll give you my numbers. So I liked, out of 26 stories, I liked 12 of them. Now, when I say liked, I mean I really liked them.
Oh, so I was close. I had 13.
Yeah, so I was almost half. I really liked. The ones that I hated, there were only 2. Only 2 out of 26 that I really hated.
Just out of curiosity, which segments are there? I want to know if that's the ones that I didn't like either.
Well, I'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, because I want to talk about our favorites and our least favorite. And then the ones that I was neutral on comprised the rest of them, which I guess would be 13. But I will say this. The ones I was neutral on, if you forced me to pick whether I liked them more or I hated them more, I would say I liked them more.
Yeah, I would agree, probably, just based off of the ones that I thought were just okay. Yeah, I would definitely leaning towards liking more than not liking.
Yeah, so if you take that into account, even the ones I was kind of, it's all right, were still, like, good. I mean, they're still better than bad.
Yeah.
Better than not good, if that makes any sense. So, I mean, if you look at that record, that's like 24 out of 26 stories I either liked or I didn't hate.
Yeah.
So,
and
actually,
that's
pretty good.
Yeah, and before we get into some of the details, I will have to say, one of the things that was so good about it, now with 26 different movies in there, you wonder, like, are they going to be able to keep up with the uniqueness? And I have to say, there's a really good mix of things where there's not really anything that kind of repeats. There's some...
Right, yeah, I think there was one time in the middle of this, and it was stories 11 and 12, where you had 2 stories right back to back where a little girl kills a Santa.
Right.
And that was the only time I saw 2 segments really kind of strike me as being, and they weren't really similar. I mean, overall, it's just
right.
that one plot point. But that was the only time I saw 2 segments that kind of, I went, oh, yeah, there's a thematic tie there. Other than that, they really did. You're right, Brian. They had really completely different feels to all of them.
And different styles, and some had comedic aspects, some had a mix of horror and comedy, some had a musical, I mean, it was a lot of different things, but we'll go through. So how do you want to do this? So I listed the ones that were my favorites on here.
Well, a lot of your favorites are my favorites too. So what I thought we would do is I'll just let you go through your list, and if it's one that I liked as well, I'll mark it off my list and kind of mention it as well. And then if there's any that you don't have that I do have, I'll mention mine at the end.
Okay. I forgot to put the numbers on these. I put the names of them.
Well, I've got the numbers and not the names, so we're
Okay,
golden.
so good. So maybe you can fill that part in. So first one out of my favorites that came along was, of course, was the Tiffany Shepis one. Because
that was story number 2.
Okay, yeah. So because of course, we adore Tiffany Shepis. She's one of the nicest people you will ever meet. And she did All Sales Fatal, which was definitely off the wall, zany little horror comedy segment where she basically tries to return something in a store around the holiday season. She plays off as she's this like pushy, like, selfish person, and she wants to return her for her son who, can get anything he wants, but she doesn't have the receipt, so she gets into this ridiculous, crazy, knockdown, bloody, gory fight with the sales clerk, and it is just it's perfect mix of what you want to see for that. It's such a great piece for an anthology.
And I will have to say, we should point out before we get too much farther in this, because there's 24 segments, some of these are really short.
Yeah.
Like, you might have some that are like 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's just most of them, I think, are like pretty much between like average around 5 to 8 minutes, I think, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it seemed to be. But yeah, I agree. I really like this one. Tiffany Shepis was fantastic as usual, and it was just it was a great, especially in like a Christmas anthology. I think the ones that have a little bit of comedy to them kind of work better because of the holidays, and this one was kind of a perfect tone setter.
What was great is this was such one of these like imagination fantastical things that probably people imagined. Like, how many times have you seen someone like just barge through a line and try and return something, and they argue, well, the customer's always right and all this stuff, and then you're like, and then the clerk is trying to be good, but he's being a little combative, and you're like, oh my god, and in your head you're like, these two could go at it, there could be a fight here. Well, this thing takes it to that level, and that's what's so great about it, I think.
All right, so next up, Brian, I think is one that this might be my favorite segment of the entire movie.
Yeah, this one's not my overall favorite, but one of definitely right up there at the top because of its such uniqueness. And this is literally a old black and white silent monster film featuring a hunchback. And when I mean silent film, they literally, the old title cards and everything. And it was just so unique. And one that was the first that like just said, oh, like I did not expect a segment like this in the movie.
They did a really good job, like kind of mimicking the old silent film style. I thought they really did having watched a lot of those silent films, from various horror challenges and stuff, I thought they did a really good job with it. And even though I kind of saw the plot twist of this one coming, I still really enjoyed it. I thought this was definitely one of my favorites of the whole anthology, just because it was so unique.
Right, you never expected to see this kind of a short in the middle of this anthology, and I think that gives it a big bump up to the top.
Yeah, that one was The Hunchback of Berg Hain.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I forgot to put the title there. Yeah. The next one, Santa is Coming. This one was really twisted and odd, and I want to say part of it, I'm like not 100% sure I understood all of what was trying to go on, but I still loved it because it was like basically this father has this really like you think is just kind of like a bratty girl, but I guess she apparently had a twin that they turned into a doll. Is that?
I didn't quite understand this one, but I agree. I had it on my really liked list, and it was South Korean, which I love.
Well, once I saw that, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna love this one. And
but yeah, I agree. Even though I didn't quite understand it, it was so creepy. I really, really liked it.
Yeah,
and that was story number 13, I believe.
Yeah, and the little girl in it was so good. It's so creepy. That, oh my god, yeah. So this one was really good. The next one, this one, of course, is going to have to get bumped up as one of our favorites because it stars Barbara Crampton. And it's like a really creepy, mystical type of one. A little bit of supernatural, kind of like a Pet Cemetery thing kind of going on with a little bit of a twist at the end. And while this may not have been, like, I wonder if Barbara Crampton was not in this, I would have liked it as much as I did. But I still like the premise of it, so I think it would still make it. I think it's just higher up because of Barbara Crampton.
Yeah, I put this one on my just okay list, and that's because I don't know that I fully understood it, and that might be because I only watched it through once. There was a couple of these I backed up and watched again if I really didn't understand it. This one I just didn't have time and just watched it through once. Obviously, I love Barbara Crampton, but this one, I didn't quite understand it enough to put it on my like list.
You are not going to get us any closer to Barbara Crampton on this show, though, with this one. Tim.
Nope. All apologies to Barbara Crampton, but this one was kind of okay. But she was fantastic in it, of course.
So she's good. Next one is Milk and Cookies. This one is like a really mean dad there with a little bit of a Santa Claus revenge thing going on there. And this one was kind of... I didn't sure where this one was going, but I still kind of liked it because it was basically this kid where he was being mistreated by the father, and and the aunt is trying to get the kid out of there, and so the kid literally is writing to Santa, and Santa answers, although I'm not sure it's not a real Santa Claus. It's just someone that likes to pretend they're Santa Claus. And comes back with some revenge for the mean father. So
this one I had on my okay list. Actually, again, the ones I say are okay, I still liked more than dislike. So this one was very close to getting on my like list, but ultimately I just went with the okay.
Yeah. Now this next one, might be my overall favorite. And this one is called They Once Rode Horses. And this is literally a black and white Western where it's just two old Western-y guys, that Tim and I always say we like, literally just talking. One of them's severely injured, and they're talking by a campfire, and something's coming after them, and they're not sure. They think they might have avoided it, whatever this thing is coming, and you just hear, and it's all played out through a lot of other sound effects off in the distance, and you really don't know what they're running from or what they ran from. But just something about it was such a warm, fun thing to just watch two old Western guys celebrate, Christmas, because one of them gives the other one a gift, and it's just but just that old Western-y type of thing that Tim and I eat up had that in this little segment, and that's why I think it's right up at the top. It was so good.
Yeah, I originally put this one as an okay, and you've changed my mind, Brian, because when I started thinking back on it, I was like, yeah, you're right. That one should have been on my like list because I really did like it. And I believe this is a Lucky McKee directed.
It was, yeah.
So I really like his stuff. So yeah, after when you started talking about it, I was like, I don't know why I had this on my okay. That one definitely should have been the like because I love Westerns. I thought this one was really unique, sort of in the same style as that Silent one.
Yeah.
The way they did that, I just thought it was just in a sea of anthology shorts that you're sitting here watching, to see the ones that really stand out like that really made an impression. I think they just kind of have to go on your like list.
Yeah, and especially because I love Old West mixed with horror. And so this one was this one kind of had that to a T. That was great. The next one is called December 19th, and that's I don't know what the point of this one was supposed to be, but it's like these two Russian women, I guess, and they end up having a really, basically the best way to describe it is a really bad ice skating mishap. But there is a sequence in there where a finger gets broken and standing out the wrong way in an extended shot. And
when I saw that scene, I was like, oh, Brian's going to love this.
I was dying. I literally, and what I do anytime I see a broken finger, I clench my hands into a fist. So I have no extended appendages out there for that to happen to. I get literally that is one of my biggest fears. But again, it was so well done that I have to give it the credit that it did because it freaked me out, and I always will give credit to a horror movie or segment that can freak me out in some way. So, and that one did it. I'm not sure what else was going on though, why all that was happening in there, but overall, it was good,
Yeah, I like the payoff of this one. I had this one on my okay, but only because I didn't quite understand every aspect of it. But it was definitely more on the liked side of the okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand why it made your like list.
Yeah.
For sure.
Next one was Getting Away from It All, and this one was on there because of the very ending of this one. Went to this super creepy place. But I've seen this plot before. I think actually Rebecca McHenry's movie had a similar sequence. Yeah, kind of thing where a guy doesn't want to celebrate Christmas and and everything he tries to, and what was her thing? All the Creatures Were Stirring. It was that movie, that little anthology.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture this one.
It was a guy, he's in the lodge and he goes off and he really doesn't want to celebrate Christmas, and then the carolers come to kind of
the carolers.
Yeah,
yes,
and
yes,
the carolers became so creepy that it basically, I was not enjoying this one up until that caroler part at the end, and it kind of just won me over, that segment, to go up on my really like list.
Yeah, I put that one as an okay, but that one, the ending was definitely better than the setup. But that one was it was just okay for me.
Yeah, this next one, I think I love this because this goes the same vein as the Tiffany Shepis one with the All Sales Fatal, where it's like this. It's called Family Feast. It's kind of crazy, but it's this woman just kind of like starts to slowly descend into madness at like her holiday gathering with her family, and it's like, how many times have you been in like a family gathering, and you're just like, you're not feeling it, but you kind of have to feel like you're on, and like maybe you're one of your crazy relatives just not taking the social cue that you really don't want to. In this case, it's like very over the top, like this crazy uncle dressed as Santa Claus wants this adult woman to sit on his lap, which is like, what was Rebecca McKendry say? Like a little rapey, like, right?
Yeah, a little rapey.
Yeah, a little rapey.
There was one that was real rapey in here, by the way.
Yeah, real rapey, and so yeah, there's that going on, and but it's just, and then she basically descends into this craziness that goes on. So I put that up there, and it was funny. And it was all to the point where she just keeps taking this punch. So she's getting drunk. So you don't know if she's actually getting drunk, or is this really going on, or what's. So it was really kind of a cool. It's like a perfect anthology, like a piece to fit into an anthology, I think, this segment.
Yeah, I had that one on my okay list, but I really liked it, actually. So it's still going. I'm still keeping it at okay because I got to go with my first impressions. But
yeah.
It was definitely, again, another one on the more positive side of the okay.
Yeah, and the next one, of course, I had to put on my list because it's a Hanukkah tale. But basically, it's a Hanukkah tale, but it's like it basically just like it's wrapping around as a Hanukkah tale into almost like an old school like 80s kind of creature feature kind of deal. So I thought this was kind of neat. You like this family, this brother and sister, I guess, is trying to get home, before sundown. You think it's kind of because of, they just want to get home, because before sundown is when Hanukkah starts each evening. So you think it's just because their parents want them home, but you find out that there's a creature out there, which you only see in like scant shadows, and it was so effective, I thought. At first, until you see it, until you see it more obviously at the end. But yeah, I just thought that was that one was a really fun one.
Yep, I really like that one as well.
Yeah. Next one, this is another one I think is one of my all-time favorites, and it's hard because I don't want to give away the twist to it, but I'll just say it's very Twilight Zone-esque for me, and it just features an interesting. It basically, I'll say, it basically mixes Russian roulette with the wonderful. Cheerful British tradition of opening up a Christmas crackers. And now, for those who don't know what a Christmas cracker is, one, you don't, you haven't been up on your British holiday culture, and two, you have not listened to Fox and the Foxhound, because they go in that extensively. But basically, a Christmas cracker looks like kind of like a wrapped gift almost that you yank each end, and it does this loud pop like a cap gun, and inside is like prizes, and like the ones my mom always gets every year. It's like we do there's like a little crown, a paper crown you put on, a little paper with a joke on it, and a really crappy prize usually in there. But they're fun. And so, so this basically takes that and makes it into almost like a Russian roulette game, but you're not sure why. But you do get a great payoff at the end with the twist. So
this one had, I don't know if you've ever played the Fallout games on video games, but it had a really strong
it did. Yeah. But so this one's definitely one of my favorites in there.
Yeah, I had this one as one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, and then so the last two I have, I think, are the bonus ones. And that's Christmas Corpse, which is kind of like a zombie-ish style outbreaky thing in an office, similar to that Joe Lynch movie that was on Shudder this year, which I can't believe I'm forgetting the name right now, but it kind of reminded me like a short version of that in some way. So I kind of like that one because it's just done in like a really creepy fashion, while the Joe Lynch one kind of leaned a little bit more towards a comedy aspect of it. And then the last one was the little bonus cool Vampire Revenge.
That one was cool.
Short, basically an adulterer pays a really horrible price.
Although I really don't understand. I mean, I guess I understand because it's an advent calendar and there's you only have 24 days, so you have to have the 24 main shorts. But it was kind of weird having these like stuck after the credits, because I'm afraid like they would have probably got missed by most people, because the
Yeah.
credits start. If you didn't know any better and weren't looking at the timestamp, you'd probably just cut this thing off because it's already running over 2 hours at that point.
And like I said, the only reason is because like I was finishing up, like making sure I had my notes okay, so I let the credits roll. I think Julie started saying something, so I was like talking to her, realizing it, and then all of a sudden I like noted I heard like the TV going on again, like talking, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, there's a segment here. My theory is, I wonder, with something like this, you do that whole thing where it's like you want to have extra just in case one film doesn't come back, because you're dealing with 24 different films.
Yeah.
There's a possibility maybe something happens and you don't have one on time, and you want to make sure that you have 24. And so maybe there were 2 bonus ones, and they're like, okay, well, they're done.
We'll just stick them in.
We'll stick them in to have it, because you can't really. Yeah, I mean, you can't really have. You don't go past the 25th. I mean, technically, you could open one on the 25th, but then, like, that's kind of like that playing your favorites. Like, that would have to be the best one out of there, and how does this
Exactly.
guy pick? So, yeah.
Well,
so
I had a few on here that you didn't have, Brian, that I liked, and some of these I'll have to say when I say I liked it, it may not have the best story, but there was something about it that I like, some aspect of it that I particularly liked. So I'll give some of these a mention because they're worth mentioning that we hadn't mentioned already. Story 4, and I apologize, I don't have the names of these; I just have the sequence. But story number 4, there was kind of a Reservoir Dogs type Santa heist, which I thought was kind of entertaining.
Oh, I did like that. I just, you know what, the only reason why I didn't make my list, I mean, it was one of those ones like you said, it's like on the okay, but probably definitely more towards a like than a dislike. I think I didn't like the payoff at the end, though, a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only
I can see
thing.
that.
I like the whole thing through in the Reservoir Dogs element, because Reservoir Dogs is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I did like that aspect, but I don't know. I thought the end kind of ended like weird and abruptly at some level, and it didn't, like, the payoff wasn't as good as the stuff, you know, the rest of the parts to it. That's, I think, the only reason why it didn't elevate to my favorites.
The next one was story number 6. This is where the guy was invited to this weird Christmas party by these really beautiful women, and then meets a kind of interesting end. And this one, again, didn't have the greatest plot, but for some reason I just kind of liked the I don't know, I kind of like the vibe of it. I don't really know why. Again,
I almost forgot this one. I'm trying to think what else happens in this one. Right?
I hate because it's so short and it's so direct to the point. I don't know how to even describe it without just telling you the entire thing. But
it's like I don't know if I've like accidentally forgot it, or because I know I watched them all and I took notes. I'm just like, for some reason I can't picture this one.
I think the reason I liked it is it kind of had a female vampire vibe to it, and I really love female vampires, so yeah, I kind of like that.
Oh wait, now I think I remember it.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This was that was an okay for me.
This other one, story number 9, where this guy goes out hunting with his kid, and runs into a let's just say he runs into a reindeer.
Yeah.
But I love this one solely for this kid screaming.
Yeah,
like,
I will say, this kid gets
scream.
an award for a scream. Yeah.
I mean, he was an incredible scream. So I'll have to give him points for that one. And it was kind of funny.
I kind of got a Ralphie Christmas Story vibe a little bit, though.
Yeah, definitely. Story number 10 was done in a giallo style, which the story itself is not great, but I loved that they tried to do a giallo style short, and they even overacted in it, just like those movies sound. So it was really cool. Like, at one point I even had to check to make sure they weren't overdubbing their own vocals, because it was that convincing of the sound of those types of movies.
Which one was this? Like, what was the little plot of this one again?
I don't know. Like, a family gathers at their home.
Oh, that's right. Where they're like almost an initiation kind of deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they did it in that style, and I just love that they tried to pull that off. That's the only reason I really had it on there. The story wasn't great, but I love how they tried to pull that off. Story number 11. This one was really strange, and the only reason I put it in here because the ending like really shocked me, and that's where this little girl for some reason wants to kill Santa Claus. in this hardware store.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And it just shocked me.
I'm not sure why I didn't put that on my list because I really enjoyed this one. I think it was just I think when I passed it by, it was short. Yeah, it was short. I was really trying to get the best.
Yeah.
And I think this might have, like, in a second pass, I might have elevated it. That's right. Yeah, because
I just had to give him credit. It was so weird. Yeah. Story number 15. This is one where the mom does not want to celebrate Christmas anymore. The daughter comes home. Mom doesn't want to celebrate Christmas anymore. She's like tearing ornaments off the tree, and the daughter walks in and finds her whole family dead. And I'm not going to give away what happens after that, but I thought this had a great twist to it, and I also had to give it credit because the dad had a Cannibal Holocaust poster in his office.
He did. Yes, that is true.
Which I thought was just crazy. Story number 17. This one, I swear, should be on my not like list because all the way up to the end, I didn't like it. It's about these women that basically get rape revenge on this guy. And there's nothing Christmassy about this segment at all.
Right.
That I could tell. Literally nothing. Like I was trying to find something Christmassy about it. There's nothing in here that says it's a Christmas segment. And it's very rapey. There's some sequences in here that I was like, oh, this is definitely going on my do not like list.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the very end payoff, I was like, okay, that just the very last line of dialogue actually put this one on the like list for me. Yeah,
but see, that was a good last line, a good final way. But I think the reason why it didn't make my list is because the aspect of I didn't remember it, like I didn't get a Christmas vibe to it.
Yeah, it really has no business being in this anthology, in my opinion. But all right,
unless we missed some subtle Christmas thing.
Maybe, I don't know. That one just. Again, like I said, that one was on my not like list all the way up until the last line of dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's kind of on my not like list just for that other reason. But I will say it definitely had a great last line, which we won't give away, obviously, so you can see it and experience it the way we did. So,
the final one I had was towards the end. That was story number 24. It's actually the final one before the credits. And that was where this crazy guy dressed like Santa barges in a house and basically starts killing everybody. And the only reason I put this one on here is because he like manhandles these kids. When he comes in, like these two teenage boys, and he's just walking in there, like grabbing them in headlocks and snapping their necks and stuff. And I just thought it was so over the top. And I don't know, it just made me laugh. It was so crazy, like the way they filmed it. And you could tell it was like really low budget filming, but they just did such a good job with it.
Yeah,
I was just impressed with it.
Yeah, I mean that was my one of my okay ones that like that I
again like story. Some of these story wise were not great, but just there was something about like the way it was filmed or something that just like made me smile or made me laugh, so I had to put it on there. But
yeah. What was that movie? Yeah, it actually reminded me of that. What was that movie we saw? It's one we probably left off that I remember we liked. Actually, we probably left it off our best of list. I remember it was the one where it was like, it was the three people in a house. It was one of the film festival ones. It was like literally like nothing but violence through the whole movie.
Oh, gosh, I don't remember the name of it now, but I know what you're talking about. It just got crazier and crazier.
Yeah, and I remember we really loved it. And it probably should have been on our best of 2020 list because we enjoyed it so much. But that's what that reminded me of, just like violence. Yeah. You know, it's pure violence.
It was so ridiculous. Yeah. But yeah, I love though when you get these like you could tell they're like low budget, and you could tell like the people in it are probably not professional actors. But just like that kid who screamed in the reindeer segment, they are so good, and you're like it just makes you laugh because it's like these non-professional people like performing all these amazing performances. I just love that. So let's talk about some of the ones we didn't like. I only had two that I actively hated, and we'll see if we're the same ones, Brian. My first one was number 3. It was some kind of sci-fi thing.
Oh, yes, that was my least favorite.
It's my least favorite of the whole bunch. I have no idea what it had to do with Christmas.
That is why it didn't belong, and it was probably be great.
I didn't even understand it.
Yeah, I wouldn't
it
either.
Twice.
I would have enjoyed it. Well, not enjoyed it is a strong word, but I would have accepted it if it was just a regular short.
Yeah,
but
I watched it twice and I couldn't tell what the hell it was about.
I mean, visually, it was amazingly done, visually, but that's about
visually,
it.
Yeah, I don't know what it was about. I couldn't tell you what the plot of it was. No clue. And then story number 5, I just did not like this. I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. It's basically the setup is there's this kid that's in a hospital bed and he's like dying, and there's like his family around, mourning that he's and then he dies, and then he like comes back to life, but he's still like in a coma.
Yeah,
and then it just shows the whole segment is them showing like the years passing, so the boy's growing up and getting older, and the family around him is getting older, but at the same time it looks like there's maybe like this war going on. So you see the room changing, and then eventually they're all wearing gas masks, and eventually some of them are starting to die, and I don't know, I just didn't like it. I just did not like that one at all.
I forgot there's another one we forgot, The Columnist, we loved, by the way, for 2020.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, you're right.
And then
there's probably gonna be tons.
And then that one, Sleep, that German one that was really off the wall that we liked.
Yeah, a lot of those from Fantasia Film Fest I really liked.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we didn't really get a bad one out of that. Even that wacky one with the giant crab and all that.
So, are there any other ones on here, Brian, that you just hated?
I don't. Yeah, obviously it's either I forgot about it or What was the first segment again? How did it open? I'm trying.
That was the kid with eating the advent calendar chocolate.
Oh, that's right. You know what, that one? Yeah, I didn't like that one because I thought it was just not a great way to it wasn't a good strong start.
Right.
And it was like almost like you've seen that before. Like, what was the one? It was Tales of Halloween where it had the sweet tooth. Like that.
Yeah.
Like that was a good way to do that. But like this one, I wasn't crazy about that one. I thought, I mean, I guess if you could say, well, maybe it's the perfect way to start. It's a literally kid eating a real advent calendar thing, kind of. But I don't know.
But it's funny, looking back through my list, we've probably hit just about all of these almost, between the ones we hated, the ones we loved, and the ones that were okay, and the ones that I liked that you were just okay on your list. We kind of covered just about all of them. But I mean, overall, guys, I would have to say, I think I had to rent this one, and I don't feel
same.
I don't feel like I didn't get my money's worth. I definitely felt I got all my rental money's worth out of this one because I went in fully expecting to dislike the majority of these segments, and I wound up the exact opposite. I actually enjoyed most of them. Now, does it work as a full feature-length movie? And I mean, anytime you put this many segments in by different directors, it's not going to really flow as a full feature film. And I would compare it, and Brian, I was thinking about this even before we recorded, I would compare it to like some artist you like that puts out this really fat double album, but like only like 11 or 12 of the songs are actually really good, and you go, man, I kind of wish he had just like taken these 12 good songs and made just a really great album versus putting out this double album, which is a lot of filler. And I felt like inside this movie, I think you could have done like a 12 Days of Christmas and taken the 12 best segments out of this and made a killer Christmas horror anthology. Instead, what you get is something that's just by its very nature going to be a lot more uneven. But that said, it's still better than not. So I would definitely put this on my list. Is it something I'm going to rewatch every Christmas? No. It's just too long.
Yeah.
There's not enough segments in here that are that just totally blew me away. I enjoyed them, but not blew me away that I want to watch them multiple times. So this doesn't go on the rotation, but it's definitely worth checking out. I mean, if you're looking for some Christmas horror this year that you haven't seen, I would definitely recommend it.
Might be a good one too to put on like a holiday party. Put it on the background.
Yeah.
By the way, it was For the Sake of Vicious was that one we were talking about.
For the Sake of Vicious.
That was the one that like Santa Claus one reminded me of. It's kind of funny.
All right, Brian. So what did we do for our beer pairing for this one?
So, of course...
24 beers, right?
Yes, 24 different beers. No, okay. This one, it's actually 26 because I found 2 more right at the end. No, okay. This one I wanted to get a nice, obviously a Christmas, and I found this great one, and this is near and dear to our hearts for many reasons. So it's called a Winter Welcome Ale. And I think it's great because we're about to hit winter. I mean, for me, for God's sake, we're literally getting a nor'easter snowstorm currently. And it's by Samuel Smith Brewery out of Yorkshire, England, which of course our dear friend Matt from Yorkshire resides. And I put the link there, Tim, because I want you to look at this brewery and tell me it does not look like one of the coolest breweries to ever go to. And it's their winter welcome ale it's 6%, and I'll read you the description. It says, "This seasonal beer is a limited edition brewed for the short days and long nights of winter. The full body resulting from fermentation in stone Yorkshire squares," which, if you go on the site, they explain what that is, "and a luxurious malt character, which will appeal to a broad range of drinkers, is balanced against a whole-dried fuggle," I'm not sure what that is, "and Golding hops, with nuances and complexities that should be contemplated before an open fire." So it's a nice thing.
And it's vegan.
I know. I was going to say, so for your brother, Kevin, there, it's registered with the Vegan Society, suitable for vegans and vegetarians. Not that I don't think, I know he's a vegan, but I don't think beer's ever stopped him. So I guess all beer is probably vegan.
No.
But,
yeah, this place looks like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Doesn't it? But it looks just so does. So Yorkshire, and I haven't even been there.
It looks just great.
Yeah, and hopefully one day we'll get to visit our good friend Matt there, and he could take us to this brewery. And it's one of those cool UK beer bottles. If you look at it, it's got that nice gold wrapping on it, and it's just a lot of artwork on it, but very sophisticated and fancy. And it's just oh my God, everyone, I almost like any beer that comes in that kind of a bottle. I don't know why. Just really cool.
It looks Go visit their website. They have a great splash page with all their beers and little fruits. On tops of wooden crates. I mean, it's very
just
folksy.
Looks so damn cool, that place. I'll tell you, yeah.
All right, so our triple threat last week, we got some correct answers on this one. I was really proud of you guys. We were looking for an actor or actress, obviously an actress because she did play a mother. Mm-hmm. We were looking for Olivia Hussey.
Yes,
and one of my favorites. Absolutely loved her in Black Christmas and in Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. I remember they used to show this Romeo and Juliet in high school, and everybody had a crush on her, from that movie.
Yeah, and I watched it then too, and you're surprised they did show you that because it actually contained nudity.
Well, the teacher used to have to spin the TV around every time.
Oh, really? They did that? Yeah, because I was because when I remember I don't. I kind of remember watching, I think it a TV version of it when we were shown it. Because I remember, I think years later, I saw it on cable, and I was surprised that it had nudity in it. Because I'm didn't I watch this in school? How is this possible?
They used to actually the teacher knew exactly when it was coming up, and they would literally turn the TV and face the wall. And
that's hilarious. And actually, I inherited that on disc on a DVD because when my grandmother passed away, they basically. For some reason, I can't figure out. Basically, gave me any DVD that she owned, so that was one of them. Yeah, so I got that. I think there was some other Barbra Streisand thing. I got. She didn't have many, but they all came to me. So
nice. So clue number one: my first big foray into horror was an all-time holiday horror classic. Of course, she starred in the 1974 classic Black Christmas,
which that's in my rotation because I absolutely adore that. And we're talking about the original.
I've got to watch that one again this year. I haven't watched it yet.
Well, I have that great Shout Factory version too. So
yeah, me too. Clue number two, I once played the mother of a very famous killer. Of course, Olivia played Norma Bates in the 1990 TV film Psycho for the Beginning.
I wonder if she had to learn how to make a good cheese sandwich for that role.
Probably. And clue number three, while I do have some quality horror credits, I may be best known for my Shakespearean performance. Obviously, we just talked about it. She was famously known for playing Juliet in the 1968 film version of Romeo and Juliet.
Yes. What a great actress she is too. She's always been one of my favorites as well.
Yep. All right, so this week we are looking for another actor or actress.
I get a little saucy with this one, I think. What do you think?
This one I like this one, Brian. This is really good. All right, so clue number one, here we go. I've been known to be in many films that prove I love my craft. Clue number two. I am one of only 6 actors to have appeared in the finales of 2 different Star Trek series.
It's an interesting clue for something
that's horror related.
Clue. Yeah.
And clue number 3, I once voiced a character on a couple of Scooby-Doo episodes, parodying a character I played in a film. That's interesting clue, too. You guys should be able to give this one, because there's some really strong clues, but this is a very clever one. I like this one.
I think I went old school with the clues, too.
Yeah, those are 3 great clues there. All right, so let's get to our fan topic food question of the week. Again, David McHugh comes through with a great one.
Yes, and I have to be honest. I cheated on this one. So normally I randomize it, but he just sent this one to us late as like an addendum to his other big list, and I love this one so much. I'm like, that's it. I'm putting it. It's a season finale. I want this question. I love this question. So I told him, I said, I'm breaking protocol and putting it up right away.
This is a great question. It makes me mad I haven't come up with this question for one of our interviews. It really does, because it's such a good question. All right, so the question of the week is, if a toy company came out with Civil Gore action figures, what 2 accessories would each of you come with?
Yeah, so, and now, as you know, Tim and I are big action figure collectors. Action figures have been part of my life since I was like a little kid. And I used to like design action figures of my friends all the time, and always just like, so everything, like, this question to me just blew me away. And it's difficult because to pick just 2 items, I mean, for Civil Gore figures, I mean, if I had to be and they said you have to pick 2 right off the bat, I think one would have to be our microphones and a beer. But
yeah,
I'm going to elaborate, because like any other action figure, there's usually variants, right? So I think for me, possibly there'd have to be a version of like maybe an exclusive version of me holding the Paul Blart 2 Blu-ray as one of the items. So I know we're kind of cheating a little bit, but I could literally talk all night on this subject. But and I'm trying to think of something, another thing that could possibly be there is, it's hard, because it's like there could be so many things that should come with a Brian and Tim action figure. I mean, do headsets count, or could that be like a molded figure?
That could be molded on, probably. Yeah. I looked at this one a little differently, because if Civil Gore would definitely have to be like a podcast microphone and a beer or something. But then I was kind of like, what if they have what if they want something that represents the person more than the podcast?
Right. Well, that's why I went with the Blu-ray of Paul Blart.
Yeah.
too.
So like, if we had a variant that was more of our personality, I think for me, like, definitely would have to have like a board game under my arm, like something, or something, a dice tray or something, because that's such a big hobby of mine. Like, but aside from the podcast, board gaming is probably my biggest hobby.
Right.
In fact, I know it is. So that would definitely be in there. And then I was thinking, maybe like, if you look at how people view you, if you kind of step outside yourself and see how people view you, I'm kind of known as the computer guy, because I work in IT. I've always worked in IT. I've been in IT for almost 20 years now, and friends and family all know me as the guy that fixes computers. So I almost think you'd have to have like a little laptop or something that comes with it, just because I'm the computer guy, And that's how I was known way before the podcast, and even way before I got into board gaming as much as I did. I was definitely way into computers. So, I would say maybe if it was a Tim action figure and it was not like the Civil Gore official, and it was kind of the variant, non-podcast one, it would definitely have to be like a board game and a computer.
Yeah, I think if I was a non one, it'd probably be a Blu-ray in my phone. Just because, but also like I think like another one could be a funny one for me is literally holding one of the NECA action figure boxes too, because of my collection of.
You could be holding an action figure of yourself.
Yeah,
your action figure could be holding your action figure.
Yeah. Well, now I might have to come with like a 2-pack with like Obi and
Well, that's the thing too. I was like, well, what if I put all my pets in there? Then that action figure is getting really expensive, because then you got to put 3 guinea pigs, 2 cats, a bird.
Well, I think maybe what we'll do is maybe we'll just have to have an entire series just to do this. There'll be a lot of variants, We'll have our special guests, like they get a figure, We'll just do a whole line of action figures.
And then we got to have our Funko Pops like Kim and Ket. So we got.
Yeah, I was toying with that idea of saying maybe we should do that, but they didn't even get to keep their own, so it's like
Yeah. I don't know. All right. Well, thank you guys for another wonderful season. This was definitely, like we said, this is a big turning point
Yeah.
season for the podcast. When we look back on this, hopefully many years from now, still chugging away at it, this will definitely be seen as kind of a turning point for the podcast in terms of great content. And speaking of which, another David, friend of ours, a fan of the show, I posed a question to him. I talked about a little bit an episode or two back about how we pick films. We said we typically pick films kind of, I wouldn't say randomly, but
Right.
a lot of times our films are picked just because A, it just hit Shudder, or B, we just got a screener, or C, I just happened to watch it, or D, we just came up with it out of the blue. There's not really a lot of rhyme or reason except for our themed months, like the holiday month and of course the summer vacation. So I kind of posed the question to David, what do you think about that? Is that like is that a weakness of the show that, our format is really, really consistent, but our show, the way we pick shows is not really consistent. Is that a weakness? And he had a great reply back. And he didn't think that was a weakness, because he said, he really just enjoyed me and Brian's personality and stuff more than what movies we pick. But he had a great suggestion, I thought, which was, he suggested maybe once a month, one of our movies is voted on by the Civil Gore audience.
Well, yeah, I mean, that might work, because Kim and Ket do that similar. And we've taken suggestions from people, except I already know, right, as we're saying this, David McHugh is like, oh, yeah, sure you do.
Yeah.
Because
January.
I
know which one y'all are doing.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
But we may do that. I thought maybe that might be a good thing to do in season 5, is once a month we, maybe we put out a poll at the start of every month.
Yeah.
Or ask for suggestions. I don't know the best way to do it. I don't know if we just do a poll so people kind of have to choose one, or if we just volunteer suggestions. Although if you have 10 different people give you 10 different suggestions, I don't know how that really helps you, because how do you pick which one of those? So,
yeah, I think we might have to narrow it down, give them an option. But the good thing is, I mean, we've taken suggestions before. Like, remember that one? What was it? Oh my God, I'm gonna mess up the name.
the 2000 Maniacs one?
Well, that one, but the one with the dog something.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. I want to say Dogtown. I don't know if that's it or not.
It might be. Yeah, I think that was a Dogtown, which was like the great horror comedy zombie one that or one of our listeners, Lou Boo, sent us. So
I don't know, but that might be a suggestion. Is we'll put out a poll of like maybe 5 movies or 10 movies or whatever. And then we'll have the audience vote on which one they want to see for the last week of the month. I don't know. Just a thought.
yeah, I like that idea.
So, we will, we will keep in touch in social media. So you'll know when we're going to drop, if we drop a bonus episode between now and the end of the year. I don't guarantee it, but it's a possibility. Definitely will have our Discmemberment out before January.
Yes.
Before January's first titles hit, which I think is the 5th.
Yeah.
So, and it's actually a pretty big month. I think I've got 35 titles for January coming out already. But yeah, we'll keep you in the loop as to when our official first season 5 episode will come back, and we'll let you know from there. I hope you guys all have a really safe and happy holiday season. Hopefully, you get some time off work to spend with your families, and watch some good movies, play some good games, that kind of thing. Kind of take a break from all the stress this year has given us. I know I'm very much looking forward to my week off at the end of the year.
I'm like I said, as we're recording this, tomorrow is my start, and then I don't go back until the first of the year. Well, technically the 4th. So I'm looking forward to this nice long break of non-work, basically. Too, I also want to finish off just thanking everyone for the year. I mean, not just our family and friends, and of course our wives who've, like I know Julie especially has put up with a lot of my my stress of this year, but she's so good at handling it. And of course, the podcast is a great diversion, and it's helped get through a lot of stuff because it brought a sense of normalcy all the time. But also a thank you to, of course, all the different our guests and our friends that we made over this year that have helped this show just go to that new level. I think we've made some friendships this year that are like just legit friendships that will be, that when we finally get out of this, we'll get to meet these people in person, which will be just awesome. And, of course, the final thank you to my illustrious co-host, Tim here, who has, various times this year we've had to switch schedules due to like either just exhaustion or stress, and and Tim has always been accommodating all that extra editing things he does and cuts out 95% of my ramblings, and it's such a great co-host to have, and that was just I feel like we had to say something about that because it was just a year like no other, but yet when you can find a sense of normalcy and then that makes the year extra special at the same time, got to address it.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. And same back to you, because Brian, I don't know if you guys know how hard Brian works on the social side. Like he keeps us afloat, because there's no way I could keep up with our social media side like he does. And all these great interviews you've heard this year have all been Brian hustling to get us interviews, get us screeners, communicating with PR people. I mean, that's all Brian, and he's just done a fantastic job of taking the show to the next level. So definitely appreciate that, Brian. You're definitely the face of Civil Gore.
Oh God! Well, that makes sense. It's a horror podcast.
Out on the internet, because there's no way I could keep up with it. But I think that's why we make a good team. We
do. And the thing is, I don't think we've ever really said like, okay, you do this, I'll do this. It just kind of organically happened, and the fact that we're such good friends too just adds the trust to it. Like we know, like I know, like in the beginning, I think he used to say, "Hey Tim, should I do this? But now I think we know. We're such a rapport that we have with this through our friendship and just our podcast, that we like I know, what needs to be done on my side. Tim knows what he's going to do on his side. And that's why it like really makes this such a good constant, right now. Yeah. So now that we're all mushy, guys, and everyone's like, oh God, end this thing already. It's what is this 2020 over yet? No.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a lot of fun, and we will definitely see you back here in January, if not sooner.
Yes.
See ya. Take care.